Good evening. I'm Clifford Murray, and this is Cliff's Office. Cliff's Office is simply an extension of Empowerment for Tomorrow. If you've seen some of my earlier videos, you know that Empowerment for Tomorrow was a platform I developed several years ago, targeting young black males only. And at its core, 14 through 19 years of age, where during those live presentations of Empowerment for Tomorrow, their biological father, and if not available, a male stakeholder of some sort, a grandfather, an older brother, an uncle, someone who had the young man's interest at heart. That was set against the backdrop of this white supremacist controlled country we live in, and how synergy has got to be established from older men right on down to that ripe old age of 14, so they can understand what's going on, and in a lot of cases, why it's going on, and how they, even at a young age, our young people have to understand the importance of lending their energy and resources, mindsets, and time to Black empowerment if Black America is ever going to come out of being America's permanent underclass. Last week I did a video, kind of somewhat of the halfway point of what I've been doing. The previous videos, I ended with a review of those previous videos, as well as establishing resolve and resolution. At the end of the day, men and women such as myself on these platforms of Black consciousness, if you want to use that, I've said in previous videos, I'll use the word courageous interchangeably with that. Excuse me. There's got to come a day and a time when we have to actually act. And unfortunately, as you've heard me say, 7 out of 10 Black people in America don't think critically about a damn thing in the first place. Black men and women such as myself, in this Black courageous community, if you please, represent the 3 out of 10 Black Americans who do. Unfortunately, until Black America can have a real true sense of Black empowerment, and it's going to take a myriad of things for that to happen, that statement alone would have to be flipped around. As you can see in the title, Black victimization versus Black empowerment is what I'm going to be dealing with quickly here in this video. One of the things that inspired me to do this video were 2 Black men. I'm not going to mention their names. I'm not going to get into a beef with me and them, but 2 Black men who are just representative of that 7 out of 10. Part of the review of my previous videos, I talked about nigger surrogates. Defined what a surrogate is: a rose by any other name, coon, negro, butter, biscuit, bone type of Black person who, though they are Black, they have the mindset and do the bidding for white America to undermine Black empowerment. And I don't normally go off of what a lot of these other platforms do and say as they're the content creators for what they do. However, because they wanted to play a particular nigger surrogate role that white supremacy utilizes as one of their tactics with respect to Black America, Black people such as myself, high dominant, conscientious, alpha king type mindset, take no shit from nobody. Basically the type of black person, and moreover on this channel, we're talking about black men, without question. White supremacy, white America's white supremacist public enemy number one. The microcosm of black America, make no mistake about it. Black men are the ultimate public enemy to white supremacist ideology. And these two black men made comments advocating what Condoleezza Rice talked about on The View a couple of weeks ago. Former Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice was on The View. I believe I may have mentioned her in my last video about resolve and resolution and how she too is a Negro surrogate. This is a picture of Condoleezza Rice, and this is an image taken from her on The View a couple of weeks ago in late October, I believe October 20th. She made some, quite frankly, Negro surrogate remarks regarding critical race theory. Now, most of you know my stance on critical race theory and how it's a distraction. And I talked about since its inception how this was going to be the energy and resources and so forth put behind this topic of critical race theory, where even some white educators want to bring this critical race theory into elementary school curriculums. And the mindset behind critical race theory is something all black Americans should already know. Yes, since chattel slavery through emancipation, Reconstruction, Jim Crow, civil rights, you name it, in the 460-something years of existence we've been here, through those 400-and-something years, without question, white America, the white supremacist controlled white America machine, has premeditated, gone out of their way to pass laws and everything in practically every outlier of society, financial, criminal justice, social constructs, economics, and yes, education, to ensure that they continue to be the dominant society, keeping us marginalized in every aspect of life. And overall, they've done that. I have said a million times, it's been God's grace. Nobody should understand the Most High's grace better than black Americans. My God. Despite all that they have done and continue to do, black America has continued to survive mostly. And in some instances, we have a component of the socioeconomic construct within our demographic that thrives. But as I pointed out, a lot of them who thrive in that, if you want to call it, area of success, a lot of them on my journey through this empowerment for tomorrow, I would argue they've been allowed to by white America. But at any rate, it's been God's grace. The United States government, Democrat or Republican, or any other party for that matter, has never done a damn thing for black people with a true motive of heart, as I've stated I don't know how many times, to ensure that black America can actually be on an equal playing field within the American dream dynamic, as they like to call it. Condoleezza Rice made some, in my opinion, and it wouldn't just be my opinion, again, this channel is for black people who think intelligently, black men who think critically about things and who understand the white supremacist mindset machine, how it affects us and how we have to be resolved to navigate and handle and deal with things. Condoleezza Rice comes on The View, number one, a major media platform. I've said 1,000 times that media, television, movies, print media, which is to say newspapers and magazines, and radio. They're all controlled, even our own black so-called radio stations, black magazines, certainly the black bobbleheads you see on all of the major networks, are all controlled by white entities. So we don't even own our own voice, really. And these media platforms, as I've stated several times, are a very formidable ally of white supremacy. So the first thing that comes to my mind, and maybe this will be an example of critical thinking. Again, I always make a plea for our older men, if you've got sons, particularly at that core range that I've talked about, 14 to 19, because your average 14 to 19-year-old is just not going to pick up his cell phone or smartphone and punch up somebody like me if their father is not telling them, hey, let's sit down and listen to this guy. Let's sit down and listen to some people who are talking about substantive matters. I know you want to punch up the big booty girl shaking and dancing and twerking, but let's sit down and listen to something substantive and deal with some things. But at any rate, it's no happenstance that during this time period, Colin Powell, who was also Secretary of State during the Bush administration, I believe you could somewhat say Condoleezza Rice succeeded him as Secretary of State, black female. But he passed away recently during this time frame. So number one, it's no coincidence that all of a sudden Condoleezza Rice is a guest host panelist on a platform such as The View. If you're familiar with The View, you know it. Whoopi Goldberg is probably the mainstay anchor personality, if you will, of that. Joy Behar is on there. That program talks about a myriad of issues, and a lot of the issues that they talk about, and you can pull them up on YouTube videos if you haven't seen them when you're at home sometimes during the day when these type of shows are being aired during the workday hour, Monday through Friday. They cover a lot of hot topics, and a lot of the topics they cover, they have political guests and so forth on there talking about a lot of political issues. Even though it's an entertainment, it's draped in an entertainment-based type of news magazine, if you will. And the panelists are all women. So that suggests, like most of the daytime talk shows, And most of American TV programming is, out of a 24-hour period in a day, I believe 16 to 18 hours of overall television programming is designed for women, by the way, gentlemen. So right on the heels of Colin Powell's death, his passing, may he rest in peace, Condoleezza Rice is on The View. And if you go back and look at that, you can pull it up on YouTube and look at that October 20th, I believe, where she's making comments about critical race theory as well as some other things that white American, white supremacists would certainly applaud, and I'll get to that in a minute. It's quite clear that this was not just a happenstance incident. And when she opens up her dialogue and viewpoint, just the way she opens up to Whoopi Goldberg. And let me say this about critical race theory as Condoleezza Rice gets into that. I don't think 7 and 10-year-olds should be made to feel guilty about critical race theory. Stop right there. Now, the research that I have done on critical race theory and what it is, and the proponents of it, and again, I've established in my mind it's just a distraction. If they get it in the school, so what if they don't? And they probably won't. In a lot of instances, black principals and so forth have been fired, by the way. Several states have banned that even being taught in the curriculum, yet they're teaching all sorts of things to 2nd and 3rd graders at a very young age on how they can pursue and drape their sexuality. That's another topic for another day, but yet they have banned critical race theory. Now, to, once again, a black mind like mine and black men and women like us, we understand why they would ban critical race theory. But 7 out of 10 black people probably would not. And one of that statement she makes, I don't think 7 and 10-year-olds should feel bad. The proponents, some of which are white educators. I saw one, I don't know what her title is. I forget her name and title. But she was on CNN talking to Don Lemon and some other panelists about this critical race theory, and just basically saying how all of American history has to be taught, good, bad, and ugly. But not one proponent of critical race theory has even used the term, and we're doing this to make white people feel bad. White people feel guilty and bad all alone. I could give a damn about how they feel with respect to what the nation has done to us from that standpoint. The white supremacists who promote this, who have promulgated systemic racism and everything else to keep black people marginalized and defeated in every major outlier in life. Whoopi Goldberg brought up to Condoleezza, well, we taught slavery. We can't deny the fact that at one point in this country, white people owned slaves. And Condoleezza Rice, and I'm paraphrasing her, their little banter going back and forth. Whoopi was trying to make some good points, but again, she wouldn't be making the points and saying them to the degree that I would be saying them, because she's not going to go that far on The View. Remember, Always keep in mind, gentlemen, the view is white controlled. We as black people own, control nothing that sends a signal toward black empowerment in the way we function as a collective body overall. Condoleezza Rice, they are teaching history. They are teaching history. They're teaching things. And anybody with a brain in their head, as I've moved through these years of empowerment for tomorrow, I have learned so much about black history and various things that have gone on and went on that were never brought up during Black History Month. Not to the degree and level, my goodness, the things I'm still learning about. And the main point I want to make, particularly to our young men, I want to frame this video in a bigger, I want you to see a bigger point on the tactics and tenets of white supremacy with this. It just so happens this is set against the backdrop of the critical race theory. She also made some remarks concerning the January 6th insurrection. Now, one of the things, as a person who studies white supremacy and their tactics and things of that nature, I've even said in my in my live presentations years ago, some of the tactics that white supremacists and their Negro surrogates like Condoleezza Rice and the likes, I refer to them as the 3 Ds. Distraction, deflection, and diffuse. Maybe add a fourth and / distort. Condoleezza Rice was doing a damn good job of utilizing the first 2, distraction and deflection. Number one, as soon as she made that to me, it was a very stupid statement. I don't think 7 and 10-year-olds, she said it 2 or 3 times, should be made to feel bad about what white America has done. She also gave a litany of her background and how her parents, like my parents, like a lot of our parents, have told us how we can be successful as we can possibly be, knowing who we are as black people and how we're going to have to navigate and do things. Some of us have had parents and family members and been inspired by other people who have shown us this. And I'm going to tie all of this in to set the proper framework on victimization and black empowerment. Just stay with me for a second, young men. As soon as she made that statement, the first thing that hit my mind, you're utilizing distraction and deflection. And she was talking to Whoopi Goldberg. So her and Whoopi Goldberg were going at it at this point. And that's an emotional play Condoleezza Rice used. Interestingly enough, nobody on the panel even said what I just said. First of all, no proponent of critical race theory has even said that's the reason why they're doing it. This critical race theory is just another matter of fact, Black people were owned by slaves. We had segregation during Jim Crow. We had all of these things that went on through emancipation. Abraham Lincoln's mindset was to blah, blah, blah. Critical race theory is nothing more than to add, nothing to make you feel bad about it. But white America doesn't want their children knowing that whether their ancestors owned slaves or not, it's pretty damn clear and apparent that white America, the dominant society, has purposely put black people in a particular position of lower than, less than, because of their race. They can see that through segregation and so forth. So the proponents of critical race theory they're marshaling it as a matter of fact. But of course, when you get all of these other entities into it, like I've explained to you before, the critical race theory platform is primarily being used as a political juggernaut. Black men, make no mistake, the 2022 midterm elections are around the corner. These talking points and things of that nature aren't happenstance as to why these topics and things are being brought up, gentlemen. White America is always playing chess. They're always looking down the road, around the bend, ahead of things, which is why, if Dr. Claude Anderson is correct in his research team, they have 25 to 3,200 think tanks in America. Black America doesn't have one dedicated think tank as to what we're going to do and why. How are things being marshaled against us? How do black men need to? We don't have any damn thing like that because we're so tied up on the fucking kumbaya train and shit. Said I was not going to try to get heated during this video. When I think about the dumbass 7 out of 10 black people who don't think critically about a fucking thing. But again, black men, there's a reason why Condoleezza Rice was on The View at this particular time. There's a reason why these topics are being discussed, black men, because of the 2022 midterm elections coming around the corner. They always have a damn reason, black men, as to why they're doing what the fuck they're doing all the damn time. What are we doing? So, deflection and distraction. Right in on the emotional thing. Then she made another stupid statement about the January 6th insurrection. And essentially how we just need to move on and forget about it. This is an image, one of the main images I'm sure we've seen, but it's the one that sticks out to me. I don't know, maybe it's because I'm a prior military guy. This is one of the major images that is always shown during that insurrection that went on that day. I think NPR radio said there were about anywhere from 500 to 600 or so white people engaged in this insurrection that went on. This is a group of white men rappelling this wall, going over to access another barrier point of the Capitol. As I'm showing this image, close your eyes and take 5 seconds and pretend that these were black men going over that wall that day. First of all, I think we know that those black men would not have made it that far. And if they had of, they'd have been falling off that wall and it wouldn't have been no damn rubber bullets. They'd have had their damn heads blown off. The NAACP, National Urban League, Black Lives Matter. And if I'm not mistaken, you have to get permits to hold peaceful protests from your local municipality so they can section off and have traffic control and so forth to mark off the streets and everything. There is more of a militaristic presence of law enforcement from the local municipality all the way up through the FBI. When a Black Lives Matter, an NAACP, marching in the old Negro spiritual, holding hands, peaceful demonstration, there's more of a military show of force just in case things get out of hand with a peaceful protest. I think about what went on in Selma, Alabama. Now, I believe they were using rubber bullets and water hoses, so the story goes. But I looked at the show. When you think about the show of force, when you look at that old filed video footage of what went on that John Lewis is famous for, they turned water hoses and dogs and rubber bullets and every damn thing else. Used batons hitting black women and children in the head and every damn thing else. And this was a group of black people marching just so they could have voting rights. They didn't storm the Capitol, bust out windows. I think, if I remember from the NPR report at that time, this was several weeks ago, overall 5 to 6 people lost their lives that day centered around this insurrection. Nowhere near a law enforcement presence of any kind to even rebuff this type of energy that went on. And of course, all of the theories swirling around, and why not common sense? I mean, my God, it had to be somewhat of an inside job. Then you looked at some of the videos that people were capturing on their phones. They're inside the actual lawmakers' chambers, offices, and so forth, talking to some of their, in my opinion, fellow collaborators who were part of a security force, taking pictures, having prayer before they moved on to other places in the building, looting and everything. Condoleezza Rice says, deflection. Understand what I'm telling you, young black man. Please understand and listen to me. Deflection. She tells Whoopi Goldberg, we need to just move on from that. I've said before and stated, this is Condoleezza Rice, I said it was wrong. I've been on record as saying it was wrong, but the American people are more concerned about gas prices and how they're going to put food on the dinner table. And American people were concerned about that long before COVID went down, long before this insurrection went down. And let me say this to you, black people, particularly what this channel is for, young black men in general. And this may be a hard pill for some black folk to swallow, like so many of the things I talk about on these videos. When news platforms, and they're all white controlled, as I have stated, even the Steve Harvey and Tom Joyner, which is now Ricky Smiley shows, they're owned by iHeartRadio and ABC News, respectively. Yeah, I know, I'm that guy that does that research and shit. Because I like to know what the fuck's going on and who's behind the scenes and why. I'm that Negro. When white mainstream news media says the American people, even if it's coming from a black Negro surrogate, the American people are concerned about, let me tell you something. When that term American people, if you think for one fucking microsecond, when those statements are made on any news platform, that they are thinking about your black ass as part of the American people who are concerned, you got another fucking thing coming. The American people are that does not include and has never included your black ass. Never. John Lewis, he made a lot of stupid statements. One of his quotes, aside from having his ass beaten to within an inch of his life down at the Selma Edmund Pettus Bridge incident known as Bloody Sunday, as he stood up and shook the dirt off his suit and shook the state trooper's hands, thanking him for his service, because I'm in good trouble. He also made a statement, we all came here on different ships, but now we're in the same boat. Other politicians have advocated that same type of mindset. Let me say this to you, black America, black men in particular, because I'm getting irritated and my camera's moving all over the place. If you think the average white person in America thinks they're in the same boat with your black ass, you got another fucking thing coming. I'm sick of your shit. God help me. Where do they get these damn statements from? We all came here on different ships, but now we're in the same boat. There's not a white person in America who thinks they're in the same boat with your black ass. Damn. So Condoleezza Rice wants to move on from the January 6th insurrection. We know damn well that that was 500 to 600 black people on that day doing this shit. The streets of Washington, D.C. would have been flowing with blood. Getting back to what inspired me to do this video in particular, these two black men. One of them, the main title of his, when you're looking at these videos, and I was watching the video and all of the comments, taking notes that were going back and forth between Condoleezza Rice, Whoopi Goldberg, and the rest of the panel in about said subject matters. You look to the right of your YouTube video screens and you see associated videos pertaining to said subject matter or topic. I just happened to click on it, got my attention where Condoleezza Rice destroyed the women on The View. I'm like, she destroyed the women on The View with those statements? Sure enough, I get over there, I click on some of them, and these are two black, not together. It's one black guy with his platform and another black guy. And they basically do what white supremacy advocates and tries to promote as one of their directives. And that is, they love telling black people, you're just playing the victimization card. When Condoleezza Rice was going through her litany of her family and background, there's some unfair things that are going on in America, but you're not going to let that affect you. And let me be very damn clear. Cliff's offers empowerment for tomorrow. Not one time have I advocated I'm a victim. Not one time have I advocated and I'm giving so much power to. No, I am simply telling you and articulating, like a lot of black men and women in the black consciousness or black courageous community does. We're explaining cause and effect. But one of the things I got growing up in my family was, yeah, we know there's cause and effect. However, there's no excuse. This is where that God's grace comes in for us a lot of times. Make no mistake. Some of the things I've been in my personal life, I've been the only black person doing this and doing that. I never thought, though, that made me special. I was always aware of my surroundings and why. And I could also argue and articulate a lot of things that have gone on in my life and in my career. Oh, no, we can't have a black man like him running this particular department, doing this and doing that. His overall demeanor and he's one of those black guys. No, he's not going to drink the Kool-Aid. That doesn't mean, listen to me, young black man, that doesn't mean you're playing the victim. Now, one of the things these nigger surrogates always like to promote is that stop being a victim. You're just being a victim card. You can pull yourself up by your own bootstraps and all of this. That's what these black men were advocating in being on the side of Condoleezza Rice and her stupid statements. We got bigger things to do. You heard me say we've got bigger fish to fry than being distracted with some of these other things that white supremacy wants us distracted with. Condoleezza Rice knows damn well if this was 500 or 600 black people, and if she was part of it, her damn head would be blown off. And to my point, as my manner is, let's look at victimization. Victimization, the action of singling someone out for cruel or unjust treatment. And I'm going to say of singling someone, I'm going to put in that place or a group of people. Since Plymouth Rock landed on us, was that just happenstance? No. We know the history behind that white men particularly went out to enslave a group of people. In this country, we are the only ones who have the distinction where our ancestry runs through chattel slavery. That would be your black ass and mine. Premeditated, promulgated systemic racism. Yes, we have certainly been the victims, and we have certainly been victimized. victimized, and it continues every day. Empowerment. The process of becoming stronger, more confident, especially in controlling one's life and claiming one's rights. Empowerment is the degree of autonomy and self-determination in people and in communities. This enables them to represent their interest in a responsible and self-determined way, acting on their own authority. You've heard me define it simply: Black empowerment, for us, by us, because of us. And in no way does that mean we're going out here trying to sow discord with other groups. But it's our group, despite whatever range we are on the socioeconomic ladder. Black America continues to be America's permanent underclass. And understand that a lot of these nigger surrogates, that's their stock in trade, to play up, or you just pulling the race card, or to play up the victimization card. The race card and the victimization card, like it or not, it's always being played against us by the dominant society. See, a lot of this is what, and I'll give credit to where credit is due, where I've heard these terms. Tariq Nasheed talks about, I'm white and I say so. A lot of that is steeped into that shit. Now you go on, Jeremiah. You go on, Marina. Now y'all do what I tell you to do now. Then you got the Uncle Ruckuses like James Clyburn and all of the other people I've told you. That's their stock in trade. Larry Elder, that's his stock in trade of playing the race card and stop claiming yourself as a victim. We got a lot of people, me included, you included. We got a lot of black men and women out here living in nice homes, driving nice cars, living the so-called American dream. And if we live long enough, white America will know that you're nothing but a nigger. White America will know from their standpoint that you are beneath me, Negro. And even a white person on the lower socioeconomic end of the spectrum, that statement that I made earlier, they know that they're not in the same boat as your black ass, and you could be a black person on the higher end of the socioeconomic spectrum, and that trail of trash little ass white person, when the rubber meets the road, I know this is another hard pill for some of these black folk to swallow. That little trail of trash got a felony record, doing meth up in the mountains and all of that. When the rubber meets the road, America will embrace and elevate and take her or his little white ass in before they take you, Negro. I know we fought in every war white men have gotten our asses into. We pay taxes. We built the country. overwhelming majority of this country was built on the backs of slaves. And when Abraham Lincoln emancipated our black people, the motivating driving force behind that, as I have explained, was simply, I got bigger fish to fry and I can't do it if the country's going to be divided over this slavery shit. But by no means in the heart of his heart, and there's even been some documentation, I can't pull it up right now, where it was not Mr. Lincoln's overall mindset driving force behind his decision that black men and women ever be on an equal playing field as white men and white women. See, don't ever get that good God Almighty. So young black men, understand black victimization versus black empowerment. White supremacy wants to in turn make you feel a certain way when they try to argue and articulate stupid ass points about you playing the victim. Well, you have been the victim. Our culture, our overall community has been victimized on purpose. Laws have been put on the books. And even when those laws were so-called removed, all you got to do is cut on the damn TV every damn day and you see. It seems like to me during the Trump administration, there just been more and more white people who have been, for pardon the pun, empowered or emboldened to just come out and show their true colors about how they feel. Now, I didn't need to see it, but evangelicals, that term, which is could be just another, it's really another code word for white people who love God and Jesus and all of that. If one of the things January 6th didn't show you, that these evangelicals are white supremacists first and evangelicals second, I don't know what to tell you, black ass. That's right. There's some other things I could bring up along the lines of church and things like that, and what the mindset of some white ministers had in the Southern Baptist Convention a few years ago, and how some things were on their charter. And here they are espousing to be loving God and all of the things that go with that, and yet and still they were making it quite clear, our black parishioners know you're still not on the same level as white parishioners. So even in religious circles, but there were so many evangelicals participating in the January 6th insurrection, it wasn't even funny. And Joe Biden. Some other things have gone on recently. My goodness. I made a statement a few weeks ago, and maybe I've said it several times on these videos. Joe Biden continues to give his white ass for black America to kiss. And in recent weeks, Biden considering $450,000 to illegal immigrants that were separated from their children at the border during that debacle and always tension and contention during the Trump administration and the DACA movement and all of the things that went on with the immigration shenanigans. And you may even recall on how the news media, I mean, do you black people even ever, I can't be the only black person that thinks like this. The news media paints a picture during the Trump administration of how horrible America was doing the illegal immigrants, and people were on TV on several reports crying and stuff because, yeah, when children are being done a certain way, no matter what race of child it is, it ought to be, there's always going to be a strong sense of emotion, you would think, except with our children. I'm not even going to get into some of the horrific things that they've done to black children, black infants even. I mean, we've got stories where we can document men, white men, lynching black children. But anyway, they paint this picture, and the Latino Hispanic child is being separated. Their parents are coming over here trying to do things, but again, not going through the legal channels. And Biden is actually considering giving them $450,000. I've heard breakdowns in reading the Wall Street Journal that reported this several weeks ago. That would be $450,000 per person in that family. So that could be at least $900,000. This is something they're actually considering for a group of people who tried to get in the country illegally. And black Americans, African descendants, American descendants of slavery, your black ass and mine, reparations have been on the docket for decades, if not a couple of centuries, particularly since 1865, where Abraham Lincoln and his administration, okay, we've got about, historical data would suggest there were 4.5 to a little over 5 million slaves, black people in the country at that time. We're going to just turn them loose. Well, we got to give them something. So to make a long story short, the 40 acres and a mule type of thing came out from that, which would have been a form of reparations. And moreover, more importantly, it would have established wealth. Nothing establishes wealth within a generation if a family can keep land. Funny thing about land, God's not making any more of it. It's been made. So no more land is being made. So land is always, okay? God's not making any more. And of course, we know the story if we follow history. Abraham Lincoln had his brains blowed out. His successor, I forget who the president was who succeeded him, but when he took over the administration, on second thought, we're not giving those Negroes anything. They're on their own. That would eliminate any chance of building wealth and moving wealth through generation to generation. These are the things that the opponents of critical race theory don't want being taught in school, among other things white America has done with respect to keeping black people marginalized. Here's another Negro surrogate. Her stock in trade, too, this is Candace Owens. Her stock in trade, too, is that Negro surrogate who always fuels the flames of, you're just playing the race card, you're just playing a victim. Young black men in particular. Don't get caught up into that false argument. We certainly have been victimized. And I'm certainly not playing a victim. That's what I'm doing here on Cliff's Office and Empowerment for Tomorrow. But you need to understand the proper balance of those. You need to put them in their proper place. You're damn right we've been victimized. Hell, if I had another 2 hours, I could explain practically where a lot of Anglo-Saxons have gone around the world over thousands of years. They've victimized and caused all kind of issues and problems for other groups as well. But we're keeping it right here in this particular platform, in this particular country, where we're the only demographic where our ancestry runs through chattel slavery. And I don't know of well, next week could be an even bigger insult. I mean, how much ass does Biden have left for Black America to kiss? Black America has practically kissed up his whole ass at this point. I've seen a few stories and sound bites that maybe Black America is turning the corner and seeing some things that, wait a minute, this is not fair. You stabbed us in the back. One of the things Donald Trump said that made sense to me, if he could make any sense out of anything, was during the campaign, and there were a bunch of Negro surrogate preachers who were supporting him. And some black people got upset when he made this statement, but that just shows you the mindset of that 7 out of 10 I talk about. When Donald Trump said, why not vote for me? What have you got to lose? He knew enough about history to know no administration has ever done anything specifically for you anyway, so why not give me a damn try? Hell, who knows? You've never had anything done specifically for you to benefit you from any other former president's administration, even President Obama. He was the first black president. That's about the only thing Trump said that actually made sense. Black people got upset about that. Maybe these were the same type of black people who got upset when I was a baby and a black man who owned Ebony magazine, Robert Johnson, had a picture of Black Jesus. And according to the research, Black America got upset, threatened to cancel subscriptions if they didn't get their white Jesus back. I don't know how much more ridiculously pathetic we can be, but here we go again. Biden told them in the transition period that I've alluded to and talked about to the group of black leaders when he was president-elect. You're not a priority, Black America, and boy, has he showed that. $450,000 is being considered. The fact that it's being considered. Now, I think some things would have to happen for it to get passed and all of that. But the fact that he would even consider that, and yet, when those Haitians were down there not too long ago, they didn't stay there long. Had their asses on a plane, jets flying back to Haiti quicker than you can shake a damn stick at. And yet, black people, look at the news media and how their mindset and disposition is changed like that, even with the refugees coming from Afghanistan. In a war, white men failed to win. I think they referred to it as the 20-year war, the 20-year war. Administrations as far back as Clinton or Bush, I think. Now, we were over in Afghanistan for something, and we'll probably never know what that is, but seems like to me when white Anglo-Saxon men pull out of a situation, they may drape it in, well, we just couldn't get the Afghans to see our way, and they deflect and distract with human rights and civil rights of the people and the rights of women in these countries being educated and blah, blah, blah. History would show, though, they've got something out of Afghanistan, and it may come along the lines of natural resources. White men don't do anything like that, and they're not going to get something out of it. Something tangible. They'll keep it hid from you and everybody else, particularly your black ass, because you're so caught up in kumbaya shit. And praying and believing for your white benevolent savior and all of that. And it's unfortunate that a person like Condoleezza Rice, see, this is the key, black men. This is again the video. I'm endeavoring to get you to see the bigger picture of white supremacy and how they move. Now, this on The View set up against critical race theory and some things she made about the January 6th insurrection, but it could be a lot of things to keep you distracted, deflecting from major issues and the like. But this is what they do. This is what they've always done, and this is what they will continue to do as long as they possibly can to ensure, particularly, that black men like you and I never get to the point to where we actually can move and change and push the needle to get that statement turned around. 7 out of 10 do think critically about what the hell is going on and are resolved to do some things about it toward black empowerment for ourselves, by ourselves, because of ourselves. And 3 out of 10 black people are just left to wander in the wilderness. Unfortunately, we don't have that now. And even with this information, even with Biden turning his ass cheek around for black people to kiss, guess what? They're still going to kiss it. Got some black people who've won some things in Virginia. That seems to be the latest news media thing, where black people running for office have won on the Republican side of the tracks. So they're going to use that as fuel. Haven't heard anything, and maybe you have. Leave a comment in the comment section. Help me out. You can help me move some things along if you want to. Have any of you heard about anybody from the Congressional Black Caucus saying anything tantamount against what Biden wants to do with this 450,000 to illegal immigrants? I wonder. I mean, during the Obama administration, President Obama pretty much made it clear, no, we're not going to deal with no reparations. And I just forget about that. I always want black people to forget about this, forget about that. Don't worry about that. The American people want to be, they're too concerned about this and that. We don't want any more energy and resources going into who, what, and why, and what happened at the insurrection to make an example out of them. And if you look at the news, the people who they are citing in that insurrection, they might as well have been getting slaps on the wrist. 60 days, 40 days, 30 days. Some of them might get a year or so, but that's still, for what they did on one of the most demonstrative demonstrations in American history, modern day American history for sure. And we know damn well if that was 500 or 600 black people. We know. Anyway, this has been Cliff Murray. This has been Cliff's Office. Next week, I'll continue to go down through the syllabus and deal with tenets on what Empowerment for Tomorrow is about, as we will deal with some things that I refer to, particularly for our young black men, significantly under the age of 25, asterisks of learning. I want to point out some things that are going to be very important that you need to incorporate in your moving through life. Asterisks of learning. Until then, I love you more than you know. See you.